Greetings and welcome to the Marginally Geeky Show. I'm your host for the evening, Eugene Stevens. Tonight I'm joined by Sean, Chris, and Ray. How are y'all doing?
Hey, good.
All right.
Dandy.
Tonight is whose pick was this? Was this your pick, Sean?
Yep, this was mine.
All right, so moving along with our random order pick we started several months ago. This was the book that Sean picked, and I'll be very honest with you. Had he not picked it, I would have had to pick it. We'll just jump in with our initial thoughts, and since I've kind of already started, I'll start off. I loved this book. So this is the third book from Andy Weir. He has written a couple of short stories that are also out there, are novellas. He is, of course, the author of The Martian, which is also one of my favorite books. His second book I thought was okay, but it never really stuck with me too well. I'll go back and re-listen to The Martian, maybe once a year or whatever. This is definitely being added to that list. There was a part where we got to in the book, and we'll discuss it in a few minutes, where I thought, oh no, I'm not going to like this. And then it happened, and then I was like, oh no, I really like this. So, Ray, what were your initial thoughts?
There was a part of the book for me as well that I was like, oh, I'm not going to enjoy this book anymore. And then, yeah, I will say I'm thankful. I really enjoyed the book, and the movie, I know there's rumors of it being a movie. If it comes true, they better not fuck it up.
Yes, whoever did the screenplay for The Martian, they need to get them back to adapt.
Yes.
Because any changes they might make, I would be like, okay, y'all know what you're doing. I can trust it. So
sure. But
for those who haven't figured it out yet, the book is called Project Hail Mary.
Oh yes, thank you for that.
Eugene has totally dropped the ball on it.
Totally jumped because I'm so excited for this book. Okay, thank you for that, Sean. Which go ahead and your initial thoughts.
Initial thoughts. I love the book. I had a very hard time with the narration because it's the same narrator as the Bobaverse. So I was getting my universes confused for the first half of the book.
I was waiting for the Bob to show up.
Oh my. It's not a bad thing, but you have to mentally disconnect from the Bobaverse, which I just listened to before listening to this one.
Oh no.
Which was even worse. And then I'm so used to listening to Ray Porter, and then all of a sudden it's very similar type of books, and what the hell am I listening to again?
especially the beginning.
Oh yeah.
Especially the beginning. It's like, oh, am I just listening to another Bob book?
Yes.
Well, because the characters are very similar in mannerisms, and that's through Ray Porter's voice. But oh man, that was a hard go. But the book itself, top notch.
Chris?
Yes, I concur with the group. It was very, very good. And I do agree with Sean, because Ray Porter narrates it. He's a wonderful narrator. We love Ray Porter. We're listening to Outland again. He's amazing. I did have to catch myself and be like, this is not a Dennis book. This is Andy Weir. And we like Andy Weir because Andy Weir makes happy things happen at the end. So that's nice.
There was a couple times where
I almost cried.
What do you mean almost?
I haven't cried reading a book since reading The Host by Stephanie Myers.
You cried in that?
Oh, the old man died, so I cried. I was so invested. That was like 500 pages in, and I was just emotionally exhausted. So yes, I cried. But this book is really good. Quinn listened to it with us as well, and he really liked it as well. Okay. He really likes those types of science fiction books. I got lost. I glazed over with a lot of the science, like I do every single time. So there were chunks where I wasn't so invested, where I'm like, I get it. I'm impressed. You know the science.
Well, and that was the other thing, because between the Bobaverse books, which you can also get bogged down in the science.
Yeah.
They were so similar. It was
they were
writing in the same cafe, looking over each other's shoulders.
Yes.
Absolutely. And had Ray Porter not narrated this, I would have been like, man, this is definitely feeling kind of Bob-like. But the fact that he was in there, you can't. It's not like you had to work hard to get, like you had to work, like you said, to pull yourself out. Keep going. This is not Bob. This is not a Bob.
No.
Because like you said, he does get. I don't want to say bogged down because I do enjoy all that deep science stuff, and I've realized like this science fiction, what did I refer? Resource management porn, I guess, is a subgenre that I love. Like it's so Andy Weir, the Bobaverse stuff. What's the big series that you introduced us to, Sean, that we've all fallen in love with? The Quarter Share books, the Trader's Tales. Same thing. It gets very bogged down into let's figure out how we're going to do this, and they break down the math and everything. And I love this in a science fiction setting. So let's go ahead and start off. So the book literally, we're not going to go through it like page by page, but the book literally starts off and it's just like the main character doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know what's happening. And, we have an idea of, okay, we know it at least takes place in space. So we at least have an idea that, okay, we're at least one step ahead of the main character. We at least know he's probably on a spaceship. I mean, not necessarily, but we got a pretty good idea he's on a spaceship, but he doesn't know his name. He doesn't know what he's doing there. And he's literally figuring out, how the hell did I get here? Where am I? What's going on? And I love how he's incorporated these flashbacks that help fill him in as he's going in, because it's a really good way for us to kind of get to know not only what's going on, but to get to know the main character as well. Yeah. Which the main character, like we've already said, is very much like a Bob, Ryland Grace. There's jokes, like there's a lot of humor to it. He's very analytical. He's very, okay, let's see how we can figure this out. So anyway, he figures out that he's on a spaceship, and as he's going along, there are two other people who are on the ship. They are both dead, so he's literally by himself. He starts to figure out, and through these flashbacks and as what's going on, he has been sent on the Project Hail Mary. It's a spaceship that is trying to find a way to stop our sun, which is slowly but surely losing power, and it's losing its power by these microscopic organisms.
Astrophage.
So he's been sent out here trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And the first half of the book, it's just him by himself. It's him trying to figure out what's going on and where he's at and everything. And the only other character interaction we have is his flashbacks to he's a middle school science teacher who basically gave the science community the bird whenever he was like, no, you're all idiots for thinking life has to be based on water. Yeah. On carbon. Yeah. So
I will say, I like his interactions with the computer.
Oh, yes.
he does throw some pretty good jabs there. And
yes. Especially when it asks like what's 2 + 2, and he gives like the expanded notation version of the answer, and they're like incorrect. He's like, well, you're not as smart as I thought you were. So he finds his way around the ship. He's trying to figure out what's going on, and to these flashbacks, he figures out that he's in another solar system. That's one of the other big things he figures out. He's like, oh shit, the sun that I'm looking at is not my sun. I am in a different
Star
galaxy.
system.
So yeah, star system.
Not another galaxy.
Yeah, not another galaxy. My apologies. And then we get to about halfway through the book. He is at this other place. He's trying to figure out, okay, it also has the same problem, but it's under control for some reason. We're trying to figure out why it's under control. Maybe we can find an answer there to help us out. And then we get to the turn. And the turn is literally, oh, there's something off. There's something out there. And we figure out real quick, it's a ship. Yeah, it's a ship. And it's obviously not been sent because it's triangular. It's like no human would create this. There's no indication that they sent anyone else. This has got to be alien. And this is the point where I'm just like, okay. So his previous book, like I said, I really don't remember much about Artemis, but I was like, okay, in The Martian, it's, it is science fiction, but it's very like there's no aliens. There's, he doesn't find life anywhere or whatever. So that's kind of what I was expecting. I was kind of thinking this was going to be more hard science. And then we get introduced to an alien, and the alien is named Rocky. Well, he names it Rocky. and it looks like a 5-legged spider that's basically made out of rock. And the way that it communicates is through like not song, but through
musical notes.
Yes.
Will notes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whale song.
Yeah. Yeah. Essentially.
Yeah.
And this is the point where I'm just like, okay, I don't know about this. I'm gonna go a little bit longer and see how it is. And I don't know what it was, but something just hooked me. And I think it's when we start to get Rocky's personality. Jazz hands. Yes. And I'm just like, okay, this is kind of interesting. Let me see where this goes. And over the course of the book, I fell in love with Rocky because he also has a personality very much like a Bob. Like even some of the ways that it says, stupid human and just human bodies are worthless. They're soft and squishy. Yeah, shut up. Just hit the button.
You need sleep. You're dumb. Go sleep. I watch.
Yeah. So before we go any further, so the rest of the book is him and Rocky's interaction. Rocky's civilization is having the same problem that we're having. So it's them working together to try to figure out a fix for the astrophage and hopefully get it back to their respective planets. So, but they're in vastly different situations. So, because he figures out that he was on the reason it's called Project Hail Mary is this was a suicide mission. And Rocky, not so much. Rocky can live hundreds of years. So he's hoping that he will eventually get back. But there's a lot of stuff in there. So anyway, who wants to just, because I already feel like I'm monopolizing the conversation, anything in particular you want to start with and just run with?
Go, Sean. This was your choice. So.
All right. So to the actual format of the books with Andy Weir, we already kind of talked about like database management porn kind of thing, like how he writes the books. And you notice in The Martian, especially in the movies and all that, they make a big deal. They take a singular character and he's able to expand that character through like internal thoughts. And he does this with Rylance because the first half of the book, he's by himself, and yet you're learning so much about him either through the flashbacks or just his interactions with his surroundings. And I find Andy Weir is so good at that. Now, the other thing that I really enjoy is because he does that using science.
Yes.
He doesn't take the science level so far that you start glazing over because you don't have a PhD and don't understand it. Even if you don't know all the words, he gives you enough to piece stuff together yourself. And it keeps things interesting. It's like when you're listening or reading this book, you're getting little puzzles and you're not even aware of it. And you're figuring stuff out and you get that little, hey, I just solved something. And you don't even realize it. And I find his book and the way he writes the stories do that. I haven't found too many authors that can do that. Andy Weir just nails it, and he seems to like hit them out of the park every time. The other thing I really liked was, even though this was science fiction and like way science fiction, the way Andy creates a problem, and this one is with the astrophage. So basically, it's a microorganism that is feeding off solar energy, and to make it very, very like he's giving himself his own answer in the astrophage. So astrophage is the problem, but it's also the solution. They end up using the astrophage as fuel because somehow miraculously it's got like 1,000% output of what you put into it, and it's a really it's a science fiction solution, but it's also a really simple, elegant solution to a problem. So you don't need to like understand a whole bunch of science to realize, hey, we can throw a match at some astrophage and it'll like create a nuclear bomb because that's how much energy is popping out. You don't need to know a lot of science about that. And he keeps dropping little stuff like that throughout the whole book. He's got this, what you think is a massive world-killing problem, but he's keeping the solutions in like little bite-sized chunks that you're not getting lost in the story. And I really, really enjoyed that. It kept you going throughout the whole story. I don't want to give too much away, but
Oh no, it's
man,
fine. If you're
highly
listening to
recommend it.
this episode, if you're listening to this show,
Yeah.
hopefully you've already read the book. But
Anyway,
um,
I really enjoyed that aspect of the story. It's like he's spoon feeding you, keeping you interested. So,
to go back to what you were saying, no, I completely agree. He is a master at making it accessible. In The Martian, I felt like he was doing that by him constantly failing and having to learn from his failure. So it's like, okay, well, he failed, so we're learning along with him, what he needs to do. In this one, it was beautifully framed from the idea that he was a middle school teacher. So, and he even talks about the fact that, he has to keep, I'm tired. I'm thinking imperial. I should be thinking metric. Sorry,
yeah.
But yeah, it's, you're right. He keeps it very, I don't want to say elementary, but yeah, it's anyone can listen to it and get what he's at. I'm like you. I also love the fact that it's okay. Well, this is the problem, and hey, it can also be a solution. And they say that multiple times. In fact, one of my favorite characters that pops up near close to the end when they're talking about the Beatles, the four ships, is the Canadian guy.
Oh,
and he's
yeah.
just like, this is like if it wasn't killing a world, this would be like the best thing ever.
There's no way that kid's from BC, by the way. He's from Newfoundland.
Okay. So
he's from the East Coast anyway.
But yeah, no, I everything you just said, I completely and totally agree. I love the main character. I love the fact that we're going through this with him. As he's going along, and yeah, he hits some stumbling blocks and has to figure stuff out or whatever, but it's never, it never jumps light speeds ahead. It's always, this is, it builds up very quickly. So, Strat, anyone want to comment about Strat?
I was going to say, okay, there are a couple of characters that I absolutely love. Strat is one of them. Strat is one of those characters that, I would follow her as well. She makes hard decisions, but they're the right ones to make. And she knows people are going to hate her for it, but she's got to do it. Mm-hmm. So and the way that she does the introduction into her, where I felt we really got a good handle on who she is the one in the courtroom where
that was
she's
good.
Just as soon as she she lays down and she's like, yeah, okay, I'll listen to you for as long as I have to, and then okay, all right, now I'm done. Here's the thing, I'm out. See you later.
Mm-hmm. I have to get back to work.
Yeah, so that was great. The other one that I absolutely loved was the Russian that came up with the actual drive.
Oh yes,
yeah, absolutely love that guy. I can't remember his name, but he felt like
Dimitri.
Dimitri, that's it.
Yes.
He to me felt like the Kris Kringle from The Guardians.
Oh.
the Jack with the tattoos. I just felt like he was that kind of a big, he's a big Russian guy, and he's like, oh, the power, yeah, like this is awesome.
Yes.
So, those characters were fantastic.
Some of the way, I don't know if it was never like, there were lots of different ethnicities, lots of different countries represented in this. There were people from it. I don't think at any point it ever like really crapped on anyone in particular. It may have poked fun, but it was always lighthearted. Like the whole thing about, are all Russians crazy? Yes, it's the only way to be Russian, be happy. Like I totally could hear, like, I've met Russian people and that's how they are. Oh yeah, we all crazy. That's how you are. That's how you be happy in Russia. Okay, all right, cool. So. No, yeah, he was definitely another standout that I really liked. So let's talk about Rocky. So Rocky it was heartbreaking to find out. It's like, well, how many, he lost the other two big people on his team, and Rocky lost like 20 some odd people on his team. And the fact, when we start finding out that, there were some really interesting things about his race that they point out. And so number one, they can't see. They have no visual acuity. They see everything through sound waves or whatever. But it made sense when he was talking about how, well, of course, if they couldn't see, why the hell would they want to go to space? Like, there's no reason. And the only reason they figured out is because they had this issue. And he starts talking about, they have, their ability to manipulate materials was far beyond us. Turning inert gases into solids that apparently are just like fucking bulletproof is a cool idea. But like they didn't know about radiation. They didn't know about time dilation. And, and I love the fact he's like, oh man, sit down. I got to teach you some stuff and you're not going to like this.
See, and that's what I loved about that was when they brought, like, when you bring up this really unique race from this world that's a super Earth, it has no, like, the magnetic field is so strong and the atmosphere is so dense that light can't penetrate down to the land. So something that actually grows wouldn't need eyes. And so it would need other ways to do all of that. So I thought it was really fascinating that he came up with those issues, right? Because if you don't really know anything about light, then yeah, you won't know anything about time dilation. And it's surprising that they were able to even discover that their star was losing energy. So it's pretty crazy.
It was really well thought out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was really nice. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just going to say, I like, usually when you meet an alien race, they're so far advanced than humans. This was nice because it was like a trade-off. Like, we're good at this, not great at that, but you're great at that, but not good at this. And so it was like a really great working cooperative relationship. And I liked that. It was nice to see that it wasn't the first alien he meets and it's like super smart.
Except that always your units, you're bad at math.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, there were a couple of points in the book, and one in particular where they're working on. I think they're making the chain. I think they're in the process of trying to make the chain so they can get the stuff, and they're just talking. And some of the stuff they bring up are some really interesting scientific ideas, like how come like you don't think a lot faster than I do? And then they start having these conversations. Well, technically speaking, you only have to outthink prey, basically, and evolution is kind of lazy. So once it can get to the point where it needs to get, it just kind of slacks off.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, that's why, because you probably are smarter than whatever the other prey animal was. And once you got to the top of your food chain on your planet, like we did, it's like, all right, well, I'm done.
Well, and then the other thing that they bring up too was how come we met, and it's he said, well, it's really not that bad or really hard to think of because you're at a technology level that we're similar to where we could build the ship and get here. If we couldn't build that technology, our planets would just die. And if we had more technology, we could probably deal with astrophage without coming here. Mm-hmm. So we're in that technological equal.
He had a lot of elegant solutions to those questions that anyone would have brought up. Even the fact that they met in space, the odds of that were astronomical. And he gets by that by saying, well, Rocky's already been out in space for several years.
40 some odd years, yeah.
Yeah, he saw this thing come flying in, right? And using and the IR that he would have, his instruments would have detected the new IR from the ship.
Astrophage, so, yeah.
Absolutely, that's a legitimate reason.
It wasn't like they just arrived at the same time or anything. Like because that would have drove me nuts.
Yeah, that would have been.
There's a lot of science fiction, good science fiction, that they do that, and it's like an afterthought. And it's like, man, we're talking about space and time, astronomical units, and just to meet up at the right time. No, sorry, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So that's how Andy got around that.
Even 42 years is pretty tight, but at least
it is
believable.
But that was the thing with the astrophage, like knocking out all these suns. Well, they all seem to be dimming now. Andy got around that too by using historical models by amateur astronomers. So it wasn't like all of a sudden we're starting to see the dimming. It took place over a long period of time.
Yeah.
He thought about this. Andy really did. And as a reader, I appreciate that.
See, I almost wonder if, because his first book was such such a phenomenal hit. Like he literally knocked it out of the park first time out the out the gate. The second one, like I said, Artemis, I don't even remember that much. I'd have to go back and kind of, listen to it again. I wonder if maybe he was like, all right, I'm going to take my time. Cause I think Artemis came out in 2017. So it's been, 4 or 5 years.
It takes place quite a distance in the future, though. It's more of a whodunit in space than anything else.
Oh, Artemis, yeah.
So it's almost a totally different genre of book.
And see, I wonder if maybe that's another thing that he's like, all right, well, this is what I was good at. I know this. Let me go back to that. Because, like we've already mentioned this before, this smacks very heavily of The Martian because it's, it's well thought out. There's a lot of science to it.
Andy was actually writing something similar to this one when he was doing The Martian. He actually got about 75,000 words or something like that into it. It was I can't remember what it's called, Zeke or something like that. And it was basically a spaceborne organism, but he abandoned it. He's like, no, this isn't going where I want it to. But he drew from it, and that spaceborne organism became the astrophage. Oh, so he got pretty far into a book, and then he's like, no, I don't like this. Threw it away, and then grabbed the things that he wanted for it. So, and this could have been like after The Martian is like, man, this is where my success is. I'm really good at writing this. Yeah. Let's take the elements from this other one and make it.
So Eugene, I'm just curious as to where you started worrying about where the book was going to go, because I know there was a moment for me that I was like, oh no.
Okay, no. So my big turn was when whenever Rocky's ship shows up. That's when I was just like, okay. I don't know. I'm expecting more like The Martian, and now we're going to introduce aliens. I don't know if this is what I signed up for. And I love the Bobaverse books. I adore the Bobaverse books. So it's not like that was it for what. Like I said, I just had it in my mind that no, this is going to be more like The Martian. Everyone has said it's got really good reviews and everything, and so I just kind of had that in my head. And so whenever Rocky's ship shows up, I'm just like, I don't know if this is what I was signing on for. We'll see how this goes. And then, like I said, once they started to learn about Rocky, it was just like, oh no, I'm down for this. I'm in 100%. So what was your part that you were?
So for me, it was when Grace makes Strat to be the bad guy, and he forces her to force him onto the ship and into a coma. And we get the whole amnesia and everything. When that moment happened, I was like, oh, because now our hero is not the hero. He's kind of,
yeah, he's a coward. He is a coward, and he even says, "I'm a coward."
Yeah, and so that was like oh no, I don't know if I'm gonna like where this goes anymore, especially with Strat, because I thought it was really interesting that her and Grace had some chemistry that he didn't really see, and I thought, oh, okay, maybe he's falling for, like, maybe they do fall for each other, but he has to leave anyway, or there's a sacrifice there. So it's still Strat's sacrifice, and it's still his sacrifice, but it's not the way I thought it would go down. Mm-hmm. And so at that point I was like, oh, but then there's a redemption. And the redemption is totally worth that moment.
Right. And yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. So it's at that point, up to this point, we think, oh, well, he's volunteered for this. He signed up for it or whatever. And then once again, these beautiful, beautiful, throwback scenes where, and very well written into it as well. It's not like there's no reason for him to just go, oh no, I just remembered something. It's like, oh no, the reason is because they hit you up with this medication, and this is what it's supposed to do. This is its job, and the whole purpose is you probably remember until you either A, fix the problem, or B, you're so invested you're not gonna fuck this up. So
yeah, because he even threatens to tear it down, and
she's like, you're not gonna do that. Yeah. So yeah, that was, and I love. Okay, so like you were a little worried about giving. I'm just going to spoil the hell out of it. So we get to a point where they have figured out there's a this harrowing scene where they're they're flying through the upper atmosphere of this planet, and they're collecting. They're like, there has to be something that's eating the astrophage or keeping it in line. Let's see if we can catch some of it. And they get it. They figure out what did they call it? Talmoeba. Talmoeba is what they call it. And Talmoeba eats astrophage. They're like, all right, cool. We've got to figure out how to get Talmoeba. They end up breeding it so that it will live in both of the planet's atmospheres in their respective solar systems. And they leave. It's, kind of heartbreaking. It's like, okay, well, they're going to break, they're breaking up. He's actually going to be able to go home. He's focused on the idea that I'm going to be able to go home and I'm going to fucking shove this in Strat's face and be like, you can go jump. I'm fucking hero of the world. So, suck it. And then he figures out that the astrophage has gotten out, or the Talmoeba has gotten out. It's eating the astrophage. He manages to save his ship. And that's when he realizes that poor Rocky's ship is lost all power and he'd never be able to get to it.
See, and that was the other beautiful thing about his writing in this. It was that the Talmoeba, they had to make generation after generation after generation, and they bred it so that it would survive in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
But what they didn't realize was that it also learned how to hide in xenonite in order to get away from the nitrogen purges, so that way it could still survive. And Rocky's ship is made of xenonite, and so that was such a good twist, because when usually in science fiction, we're going to breed this thing and it's going to do what we want it to do, and it does. But in this case, it's like, there's other things that have happened that we didn't intend for it to happen, and
life finds a way.
Yeah.
So it literally, like, the end of the chapter is him going, okay, well, I have a decision. I can either go home, I can save my entire planet and live the rest of my life as a fucking hero, and no one will ever know. Or I can go save Rocky and I will die because I can't eat his food. And, he goes on and on about that. I cannot eat your food. There was a part where they even kind of tried it just to see, because his voyage home, he's going to have food for a little while. And then the rest of the voyage, he's basically going to have to eat like soy nut. Yeah. And he's not looking forward to that. But he decided, and he's like, this is the choice that's left me. End of chapter. Next chapter, it's him, getting further and further out. Can't really see it anymore. Can't detect anything. And I'm just like, oh man, you left Rocky. It's like, no, he was tracking the Beatles. He fucking went to Rocky, and I'm just like, fuck you. Like, I didn't do a fist pump, but I was just like, that's the part in the movie, if they make a movie, that's when everyone's going to be like, fuck yeah, you went and saved Rocky. I'm like you, the part that, definitely painted him as a coward, and then the fact that he had this redemption of, no, I'm going to make a choice. I'm not, I'm going to die, but I'm going to save both fucking worlds. So, or try to.
Yeah.
So.
Which, by the way, when he reaches Rocky's ship to save him, and he bangs and he's hitting it, and he's like, "Come on, Rocky, you got to talk to me. Same channel as always." And then all you hear is Grace, and it's like, oh, yes, it's so awesome.
I love one of the other things. So like I said, we're full spoiler here. Whenever his afterlife, his time on Rocky's world, I love the fact they set up all this stuff. I also love the fact that he's become so fluent in the language, he literally is like chapter, and he's like, oh, it's clock, and it's just like, it's like he's fluently, like a person who speaks multiple languages would do. You kind of flip in and out of them. I loved the fact that he did that back and forth, in that final chapter. And then of course we get this awesome thing where Rocky comes to tell him, hey, by the way, it looks like your son is back to 100%. So, you did good, old man.
Yeah.
I love it that he was teaching in a classroom.
That's what I was about to say.
That
That
I
was
thought
so good.
that was so beautifully well done at the end.
Yeah.
So, can
Yeah.
anyone tell me the speed of light in like 12 hands off of 5 kids? Yeah,
12 claws. Yeah.
12 claws.
Yeah.
So, anyone else, any other particular things you want to bring up?
The one thing that I thought you were going to bring up when you mentioned them going through the atmosphere, when Rocky enters in to save Grace, and you can see like in my head I can just see smoke billowing out of this thing because it's he's in an atmosphere that he shouldn't be in.
Yeah.
And then Grace sacrificing himself to get Rocky back as well, but then also almost totally fucking up and killing Rocky. Like best intentions, but you almost killed me.
Yeah, you took off my scabs, you bastard.
Yeah.
It was the only thing holding me together.
But it's so true, right? Because you're thinking, I got to do something. It was like,
You don't know.
Just shouldn't.
Yeah.
I love
needed that soot.
Yeah. I love the fact that he turns that in the book like something that is very personal to us. Sleep.
Oh yeah.
That kind of one of the big commitment things. Someone that you're sleeping with, because basically you are laying down all of your guards and trusting the other person you're with. And they're like, oh no, this is a communal thing. Like this is, I need someone to watch me sleep and I'll watch you sleep or whatever. And yet something that we use as a communal thing, eating, they're just like, oh no, this is private. You cannot say this.
Yeah. After them describing the eating, I understand why it's private.
I understand too. So let me ask y'all this. Granted, we are in different situations. We're all parents. We're all married. Different situation if we were the only savior of the earth and got, would you have made the same choice to save?
Not go?
Well, it would be hard for me to go. Like, here's the thing, though. I'd have to keep telling myself, well, if I don't go, there's a lot of things. Like, if literally the smartest people on the planet told me you're our best chance, number one, a lot of pressure. Number two, I'd have to keep telling myself that, well, if I'm the best chance and I don't do this, then everyone I know and love is going to die. Yeah, that sucks. I don't get to be around them, but kind of have to do that. No, I was more so thinking about the choice of, do you go save an alien race that no one will actually ever hold you accountable for, or do you make the attempt to save both planets? And I would like to think I could give that up and save both worlds. I would like to think that. I don't know. It's going to be awful hard to not come back to the planet and be the fucking savior of the world and see my family again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I get that, but after being through that much with that's family now, right? Rocky's family, and how I would feel like I fucked up because I bred this thing that's now destroying his ship. And
he also says, Grace also says that he's his only friend. He's like, you're my only friend. Like,
yeah,
I didn't really have a lot of people that I could count on back on Earth, and all the kids that I loved and loved me are now going to be like a generation older. It's like, you're it, Rocky. So for him, I don't think it was as big a choice.
Yeah, it would definitely be hard. Like you said, we're in the. I think
your wife sitting right beside you.
with my wife sitting right here and saying,
yes,
it would absolutely be a hard.
Yeah.
But that being said, I wasn't expecting to go back anyway when I came out.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't have been expecting me back.
Right.
So I would have expected her to move on, right? I would expect you to move on. So I would probably send a message and say, hey, I'm off to
Don't send a
save
message.
this world.
Don't send a message.
Don't send a message.
Don't send a message.
Okay.
Oh no, I'm sending a message. I'm sending multiple messages. This one's played to my friends. This one's played to my family. This one's played to the rest of the world. Hey, motherfuckers, you owe me.
I want the biggest motherfucking statue you've ever made.
Hell yes. Rule number 1: no more wars, motherfuckers.
Yeah, no more wars. Yeah, get along, you stupid.
Yeah, you're on borrowed time now. I just saved us, so yeah. What about you, Sean?
If I was already out there,
Yes.
then it'd be a no-brainer that I couldn't live with myself if I turned back to Earth and let a whole civilization go down. I couldn't do it. Yeah, I'd turn around and save Rocky. I'd send messages and all that. Possibly to figure that I myself was the only one in the world that could save the planet. Well, those smartest people in the world aren't that smart.
I know.
So, yeah, if I were in that situation when I was already out there, I'd have to turn around. I'd send the Beatles and because like my family would already been what's the time dilation on it? Was it 30 years or
34 years?
20, yeah.
Yeah.
26. 13 years there, 13 years back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so over 26 years by the time you get back there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And they weren't expecting me to come back anyway.
Exactly, yeah.
So, no,
So,
I have to turn.
what about you, Chris?
Oh, if I'm to save the world, we're fucked. First of all, I have no scientific ability whatsoever.
You have to crochet a blanket that covers the earth.
Yes.
We're done. It would be the guilty conscience. I don't think when I'm already out there, I've made that connection with the person, and to know with 100% certainty that they're doomed and I can get to them and at least try to save them. Because again, I'd be like, well, I'm not going back anyway, right? Like I signed up, or I didn't sign up, but it was a one-way ticket, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I would send messages. I don't know.
You probably wouldn't.
I don't know if I would. Because for me, would it be worse? Would it be worse to know that I had survived it all and I chose not to come back because I needed to do this? Like if I got that from him, be a lot of anger. There'd be a lot of anger. Be like, I don't fucking care about that. Well, I'm 26 years older. But then it would probably settle into like, yes, it's him. It wouldn't be him. He wouldn't be the guy I love without. Obviously, he'd go after the anger left.
Right.
So I don't know if I would. It kind of reminds me of those messages that they sent back in Interstellar.
Oh, that was a tough
Like
movie.
that's kind of it was hard to watch because it was, and that's what I would feel like it would be like. What would be the point? Somebody's heart's being broken. Right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it just be better to know that they were going and that was it? And then you could like grieve and move on. It would be almost like, it would be traumatic to get the message back and be like, you survived and you're not coming back. It would be really, really hard as a partner to deal with that.
I think maybe I would send, like Sean said, maybe a couple of, or even Eugene, maybe a couple of messages. I would, like the scientific one would be like, okay, shh, don't tell anybody. But there's another race and I gotta go save them. And then my other one would be like, I love you all, thanks for everything. I'm gonna go do that heroin now.
Oh no, see, I'm telling everyone fucking thing. Like, hey, guess what? not just one world. I say two.
And we might go for a third.
And yeah, hell yeah, we might go for a third. I just thought of something. So I think one of the other reasons I like his writing so much is in the first book. I say the first book like it's a series. In The Martian, everyone on the team had dual roles, and his role was a botanist, clearly scientist, and then he was the engineer. Like he was the one he was the fix-it guy or whatever. In this story, they even say you're science human, I'm what do you say, mechanical or engineer or
something like that.
fix it or something like. I was like, I think that's why, because the heroes of his books are, going back to Ghostbusters, it's scientists and people who know what the hell they're doing. Like, it's not, they're not superheroes. They're just average guys that are pretty smart and figure shit out or whatever. So, and then one of the other things that, he points out that, and like you've said, Sean, it's the way that you figure things out. He's like, whenever he comes back, he's like, Grace, you came back or whatever. He's like, yeah, but I'm going to die. I don't have enough food. And he's like, well, figure it out. He's like, no, I can't eat your food. I can't eat astrophage. And he's like, then you tell me, but he's like, I can't. Can I tell me? And it's like, oh, look, there's a very sensible answer that makes it, because he's like, well, it's a cell. It's this. And he starts, explaining. He's like, I guess I could. We'll figure it out. And then, of course, when he gets there, he's like, yes, I'm eating me burgers. And you would too. So,
cloning, and it works.
Yes, because but no, I really did enjoy this book. I've listened to it, I think, at least twice, maybe 3 times. It's definitely going to go into the rotation of, all right, I got a lot of work to do. What's something I can put on in the background and enjoy, but I don't have to keep 100% focus on. Yeah. So, and I can just dip out. Oh, here's my favorite part. Listen, and then go back. So I guess, normally we do a wrap up, but I'm assuming everyone is on board. This was a fantastic book, and would love to hear more from Mr. Weir.
I do not recommend it at all. No.
Stay away. Ask for your credit back.
Well, I will say though, as somebody who I like science fiction. I am not a scientific-minded person. I was horrible at it at school. A lot of it, I just trust that somebody understands it, because I honestly don't. He's tried to explain stuff to me, and it's like he's the teacher from Charlie Brown. I can't get it. But I trust that other people know what they're talking about. So when they do go into the heavy science stuff, I trust that this is just totally legit, because I don't know. But what I appreciate about science fiction is the thought and creativity that goes into it. The amount of research that these authors must do in order, because there are people out there who are going to nitpick it and they're going to hear about it, right? Like, there are people who are going to break down their math to see if that's an actual probability. There are people who are going to break down the science in the science fiction to see if it's plausible at all. So these authors have to know their shit, and I appreciate that. What I like about science fiction is the world building and the different types of aliens these people dream up, and the stories that they come. It's like a different branch of fantasy for me, essentially, is what it is. So that's why I think if somebody's not scientific minded and worried about or just dismissing science fiction because that's not part of their makeup, give it a try. There's so many good stories out there that just happen to be science fiction.
Mm-hmm. Has anyone listened or heard about any breakdowns of this? Because after The Martian, everyone fucking was tearing that movie or that book apart, and yeah, there is a lot more water on Mars than he portrays or whatever. So yeah, it would have definitely changed possibly the way he would have done a few things here and there. But for the most part, most people are like, no, the math kind of holds up. His basic math and ideas and premises hold up. So
the basic math will be easy to figure out for this book. The way he gets around it is the percentage of output he gets for his engines. Mm-hmm. That will dictate, because once you know how fast you're traveling, you can figure out how far you're going to go and what the time dilation is going to be. That's a basic thing that isn't going to change. So the only thing was, okay, how am I going to get faster with the fuel? Well, and he figured that out because he's like, oh yeah, the energy is being stored in some kind of subspace kind of thing. It's hiding in there. So, all right, well, sure, let's go with that. There's the MacGuffin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But all the other math will check out.
I didn't understand anything you just said. Trying to be it doesn't compute in my head. But I trust that you know what you're talking about, and I trust that you guys, when you're reading this stuff and you hear the science part of it, you have the working knowledge of
So-
and you get excited because when they were describing the fuel crap, I was just like, okay,
So that's
they're
one
making
thing.
fuel.
That's one thing that I wanted to talk about though for sure was I love the fact that they figured out that astrophage turns energy into neutrinos and stores those neutrinos and actually grows in mass and then converts those neutrinos into the IR and light in order to actually move around. And I'm like, this is fucking amazing. I love this. And Chris was like, okay.
Faster. This is awesome. That's what I heard. And that's fine for me because it doesn't take away from the story for me. What happens when science fiction is really heavy math and really heavy physics, then it's just like, okay, now your characters are flat. Now it doesn't matter because you've just scienced the shit out of this, and it's not relatable to anybody who doesn't have a graduate degree in this.
And that's where Andy definitely hits the nail.
Same with Dennis.
He rides that line perfectly where it's like, okay, here's enough to make it interesting for people that are into science, and you can delve deeper if you want to. Yeah. But here's just enough so that I don't lose the rest of my audience as well. And so I really enjoyed that.
Yes, that's what I appreciate is that there's enough of a story there. There's lots of story there, and there's lots of characters there, and there's lots of, I don't know, I got excited and I yelled at the car dashboard when I thought Rocky had died the first time. I'm like, this is Andy. What the? He's supposed to write happy endings and he fucking kills Rocky. What this bullshit? I got really, really upset. Because
she came down to, I was cooking breakfast or something where I don't remember what I was doing, but she comes down to me at one point and she's like, okay.
I had a phone to pick.
Does Rocky survive?
I don't want to read this if he doesn't, because this is stupid.
You have to keep listening. I can't give anything away. She's like, fuck that. You need to tell me. Is Rocky yes, Rocky survives. Okay, I'll keep listening. I'm like, okay, good.
Normally I don't want spoilers. Normally I'm like, no, I'm good. But this was like, no, you can't make me fall in love with this 5-armed carapace freaking spider thing who has jazz hands and then kill him off. I can't handle it.
I love the fact that you used the term it was even in the trailer for The Martian. I'm gonna science the shit out of this.
Oh yes, yeah.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to what we've been reading. Would anyone like to go first?
I will.
All right, Sean. What else have you been reading?
So I am re-listening to Demon by Daniel Suarez. This is my third time through it. It's just, I love it so much. Demon and Freedom. So it's a 2-book series.
Mm-hmm.
I'm told by Eugene he's listened to it before.
Oh, I love
Daniel Suarez is so good.
He is a fantastic writer. Not all of his books they're all good. They're all good books, but there are clearly some that are standouts. And Freedom and Demon are 2 of his standout books. Yeah. I think if we could get Chris and Jen through the first book, I think they would adore Freedom because of the ideas that are put forth with the new world stuff. I think they would be like, fuck yes, this is what I want in life. Yeah.
It is so it's well written, but it's so well thought out. Oh my God, he must have had a map on an entire wall of his house figuring all this stuff out. And anyway, listen to it, people. It's kind of science fiction. It's more fiction than anything else. It deals with a demon as a computer program. And it basically, yes,
that's it.
By Daniel Suarez. And it's basically a billionaire genius who dies, and he leaves behind a present for humanity called this demon. It's a program, and it's basically going to rewrite our society. It is huge. It's got to go through a lot of stuff. It's not sentient. It's all a logic tree. It's crazy. But highly recommended if you're into kind of thrillers and well thought out stories. There is some pretty brutal stuff in it in both the books, but 2-book series, 100% recommend.
Yep. That's what I was saying. If we could get Chris and Jen through the first book, y'all would love some of the stuff in the second one.
The second one was where they would shine. They could probably bring it on to, what's that geeky show that they do? Sustainably something?
Sustainably Geeky? Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, the second book is perfect for them. But you gotta get through the first one, which is awesome. But you may not like it. I don't
know. Ray, have you been reading anything else?
So with Chris, we were listening to Harry Potter.
Just sort of
on and off as we're doing longer drives. And then we flipped it over to Outland to re-listen to that one, just because there was an announcement made by one of our authors, and we're excited.
Yes.
So yeah, Dennis C. Taylor coming out with 2 more Bobiverse books. Excited about that, and 2 more other non-Bob books.
Yeah, he didn't say what, but hopefully one's Outland.
It's gotta be.
I really want some more Outland, so hoping. Come on, Dennis.
Yep.
And then I have burned through quarter share, and I'm actually on captain share again. I've burned through that whole.
I love the fact I got you guys on that.
Dude, yes.
Listen, so I actually got his new one. What's it called? I just haven't listened to it.
The Butler, the Wizard's Butler?
Sorry, the Wizard's Butler is another one that I also listened to.
Okay.
But the Dark Knight Station Origins.
Okay, yeah.
I started listening to that one, and I was like, you know what? I need to go back and listen to all of this one, and then that way I get all the little, tidbits here and there. So, yeah, I'm on Captain Share. I'm going to burn through the rest of that, and then I'm going to go back to the Origins. So, yeah.
Okay. Chris, what about you?
So I listened to The Wizard's Butler by Nathan Lowell. It was really good. I really liked it. It was a really cute idea. And then I finally finished. It took me almost 6 months, but I finally finished Return of the King. Technically, I finished the story part a long time ago, but the last 200 or so pages of that book are just history, encyclopedic knowledge. I don't know why my dog's freaking out. But I was like, okay, no, he wrote all this. I'm going to read it. And a lot of it was really interesting, just like the genealogy and timelines. I got really messed up with the first, second, third age when it starts, names for different things, whatever. But it was still really interesting that this came from one dude, and it reads like actual legit history, and it was just really, really cool. And then the last 2 appendix, E and F, are just strictly language, and this man was like freaking linguistic genius. It was amazing that he thought of all of just the little details that this man thought of. It was really cool.
She has a new understanding, and for Stephen Colbert, it was.
Oh my God, he's such a nerd. And then we went to the bookstore. We've gone to the bookstore a couple of times, and one of my favorite smut authors, her name's Sherry Lynn Kenyon. She's just as nuts as her worlds that she builds. I think she got a little from writing them a little bit too much. She's convinced her husband has been poisoning her, and that the law system is completely corrupt. So she doesn't put anything out in 2 years, 3 years, and she's not going to be putting anything new out for another year or 2. But I found a book I hadn't got a hold of yet, and it sucks. I'm so disappointed. I have read part of it. As soon as it's so broody and it's so whiny, and there's nothing happening, and I have 20 pages left, and this is the longest it's taken me to get through one of her books.
Was that Stephanie Meyer?
No.
It's not.
We did talk about actually going back through Twilight.
I'll read
series
Twilight series again. We watched the movie the other day. Such trash. So good.
Catherine was reading that, I think.
Yeah. So I'm almost done that, and then I bought Stardust by Neil Gaiman and Stephen Fry's Mythos. So I'm really interested to read those two because Stephen Fry's got another one out called Heroes, and I want to, if I can get through Mythos, then I want to read Heroes.
Okay. What did you go grab there, Ray?
I
yeah,
forgot
you
because
sent
I
this to me.
showed this one on the
Creatively.
Creatively Geeky, and it's just a fun dude crafts thing. It talks about different
Dude crafts.
crafts.
Cute.
But it has some fun stuff in here that I want to try for Halloween, and there's just some gags and stuff like that as well. But where'd it go?
You want to do the head in a jar.
I do the one. There's a head in a jar thing. I can't find it right now. That's okay. But yeah, there's just a lot of like creating a whip out of a bungee cord and that kind of stuff. So
nice.
Kind of a cool one there. And then the other one was carving.
Oh, okay.
I want to get into doing a couple of. I've got some boards that I want to make some signs, and so it talks about making like really fine details and all the how-tos on that. So yeah, it's going to be fun doing some extra little things on that.
Very nice. Let's see here. So I'm just now kind of getting back into listening to books, mainly doing podcasts or whatever. Last month I couldn't listen to anything. For whatever reason, my brain was not able to handle taking on anything else. So I listened to Grand Theft Astro, which is the if you have an Audible subscription, it is free on Audible. It is from Scott Meyer.
Only in America.
Okay, I'm sorry, only in the US.
Yeah.
It's okay. I would have rather him put out something else in the other universes that I already enjoy. Specifically, I am dying for another Authorities book.
Yes.
So yeah, but otherwise it wasn't bad, especially if you're in the US and you have an Audible subscription. Definitely download it and listen to it. It's worth listening to. The other thing that I listened to was The Wizard's Butler by Nathan Lowell, and yeah, definitely nothing like he's already written, and I really enjoyed it, and I definitely see us probably reviewing it on this show sometime in the future. So it does say at the end, book 1 in the Wizard's Butler series, and I'm like, all right, cool. I even asked before the show, I was like, so are there more in this series? And apparently not yet. And I'm just like, oh man. So yes, I enjoyed it, and I like this world that he's built, and I cannot wait to keep playing in this world. So
yep.
Well, that is it for our show this week, ladies and gentlemen. Our next book, this will be the final book in the kind of round robin series that we did. I need to talk with the group and see if we want to do this again, or if we want to go back to voting. We'll see. But next month's book is my pick, and it will be for September, leading into October. So I thought, why not pick something that a book that I love, a book that I have read multiple times. And oddly enough, being a geeky book show, we have not read a Stephen King book yet. So I thought, why the hell not? Let's get started with a Stephen King book. And I picked one of my absolute favorite of his, which is Salem's Lot. So that's what we'll be reading next month. If you would, please give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, Google, Stitcher, wherever it is you listen to this show. You can check us out at epicallygeeky.com, where you can find all of the shows that we do, including the Marginally Geeky Show, the Epically Geeky Show, the Creatively Geeky Show, and Sustainably Geeky Show. You can find us at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at Epically Geeky as well. Where can we find you online, Ray?
The Reluctant Yeti on Instagram is probably the best spot. Otherwise, Wiki Feet.
Oh my God.
No. It's a new video. Julie Nyolke, who does the pandemic, where she talks to herself.
Okay,
she did another gag today about Wiki Feet. It was kind of funny. So.
Okay. I was like, what are you? Never mind. Thought maybe you were cross-referencing my the last episode of the Epic Geeky Show where I came up with the alternative porn site. So I was like, what's going on?
You're not far off with WikiFeet.
Yeah. Chris, where can we find you online?
On Instagram at Rose and Hummingbird.
Sean, where can we find you online?
Well, your favorite broken toy on Instagram and as always, fucking with Wikipedia.
And as always, you can find my individual wacky adventure online at Optimus Gene on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. For everyone on the site, have a good night.